Before we dive into this week's episode of the Men's Collective podcast with Average Joes, I want to take a moment to express my amazement in my three sons. Their commitment, bravery and courage in representing teenagers as a whole and sharing their perspective on fatherhood in today's world is truly inspiring. What you'll hear in this episode is nothing short of incredible. The maturity, courage and wisdom they displayed blew me away, and I couldn't be prouder to be their father. The recording turned out so well that we decided to take it as a two-part series. This week you'll hear part one, Fathering Together, a child's perspective. Next week we'll present part two, Fathering Together, a father's perspective. Our aim with this podcast is to understand what fatherhood looks like from a teenager's perspective, with hopes that you as men can take away from this the necessary things and changes needed to be the best dad you possibly can. The questions and discussions were designed to reflect the collective experiences of teens rather than focusing on them as individuals. Let's do it. Gentlemen, welcome to today's special Father's Day edition of the Men's Collective podcast. We are the Average Joes, and today I'm joined by the top three men in my life that also happen to be my three sons, Caleb, Samuel, and Zechariah. Welcome, boys.
Quite a title.
Well, had to talk it up.
Oh.
Well, we just had Father's Day here in Australia, and for most men, it's a time of being shown appreciation for being a dad. For some men, it can be an emotional time if they are estranged from their kids, and also a hard time for some if their relationship with their own father is one they'd like to forget. So today I'm aware of all the circumstances, and so the approach I want to take today is diving into fatherhood not as an expert, but as an attempt to understand more from a child's perspective in today's day and age, in hope that we as men can become better fathers, but also maybe shed light on our own fathers. I've given my sons permission to be as real, honest, and as open as they would like in asking myself and each other any question they like. I've also made them aware that parenting doesn't come with a rule book, and most fathers, I should say, are giving it their best, and to understand that we deep down hope that our fathers gave it their best as much as we can agree or disagree with their parenting whilst we were growing up. Now, none of these questions or responses are scripted. Neither of my kids have seen any of my notes, so they're all about to be put on the spot. So join me now as you and I both get to know three of my four kids more, in hope that you and I as a father and as a son can learn how to be better. Boys, welcome to the panel.
Thanks. It's about time. I know. I've seen it all come together, but I've never actually, sat down and done it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really weird going from editing it like hours every afternoon to now being on it. Yeah.
It must feel weird for you because you've seen hours and hours of footage on repeat.
Yeah, and I've
now
seen
you're on
it
this
from
side of the table.
my own perspective, and now I'm in it. It feels odd from watching behind the cameras to then being exactly in front of it.
It would feel weird. Well, welcome, lads. I'm so glad to have you here. I mean, it's especially just having Father's Day. I meant everything I just said. Then I'm just so proud of you boys, and happy to be your dad and to have you on this panel, on this platform with our audience is amazing. So thanks for agreeing to be a part of it. Truly,
right.
I really mean it.
Excited.
Well, the topic for today, just coming out of Father's Day, I've given it, which is fathering together. So what I'd like to know to start off is you guys are 19, nearly 17 and 15. It's the year 2024. Caleb, start with you. What is it like to be 19?
Look, it's definitely different because I've just come out of school, so it's a totally new environment that I'm in. I've gone from having a routine where I go to school 5 days a week and then maybe do some work in the afternoons when I come home from school and stuff, to then like being in the position where I wake up in the morning and I go, wait a minute, I don't actually have school right now. I actually have a life now, and I have to do work 8-10 hours a day, and it's different. It's definitely like it's like I've been thrown into this new environment that I expected it, but like it's different, and it's still something that I still am currently warming up to. I mean, I've been out of school for like almost a year. It's coming up to like, I've been out of school for like 7 or 8 months. I don't even know, but I'm still getting used to it. It's still a totally new environment for me. Like not having that daily routine of getting up and going to school and swapping it with doing work or having other commitments and stuff like that. So it's different. It's still,
Learning responsibility.
Absolutely.
Gone from just waking up to an alarm and getting dropped off to school to learning that this is the start of possibly the rest of your life.
And still deciding like what I actually want to do. Like so many people that I went to school with, and myself included, sat back and went like, okay, well, what do I do now? And I feel like sometimes we have to have our mindset of like, oh, I have to know what I'm doing. But in all honesty, I'm probably not going to know what I'm going to do for a few more years. Like,
It's interesting to say that because you and I have had that conversation many times before. The pressures of a young man that when they leave school, they need to know exactly what they want to do with the rest of their lives. Because I didn't. It was end of being 19 that I got into plumbing. So I also left school for 2 years. So that in itself, I think we as men need to understand that pressure needs to be lifted off young men like yourself because the pressures are there.
yeah.
Samuel, what's it like to be nearly 17?
I think I got like a whole different experience from everyone else my age because most people my age are still in school and I've started the year pulled out of school. Like I did homeschooling for the first little bit, but now I'm out of school and I have a job, so it's very different for me than other kids my age because like Caleb, it's weird not waking up and being like, oh, I don't have to go to school today. Like I sleep until like 9 and then I work from 9 to like 4 and then got the afternoon to myself. It's very different to a lot of other people my age. So, but I'm finding it really nice. I like it a lot better than school, so I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, good. Zach, what's it like being 15, buddy?
Well, it's very weird because like you have to like do all like these assignments at this age, and like you have to like focus on like a lot of stuff about school mostly because they don't get to focus on that because they've moved out. But like, yeah, like you have to focus on like work a lot, and like it's good and bad at the same time because like it's schoolwork, but then it's like the best age because of like you get to meet all like your friends for the future and stuff, and like you get to have like the best memories.
Do you think, overall, when you look at me being 45 and you guys being 19, 17, 15, do you think life's easier growing up now than when I was growing up? Or do you think it's harder?
I think it goes back and forth different things. Like if we're talking easier as in like, could I go out at 10 o'clock at night with all my friends and ride bikes down the street? Probably not, because that's dangerous. But probably for you, it would have been a lot easier because you wouldn't have that worry. So like, there's a few different things that I'd say yes and no to that question. Like that one being one of them. And then like, I find that there is a lot more opportunities for people our age to find jobs through like things like social media. Things like, social media is a good example, but even just like side hustles, like gurneying someone's front lawn, like the capability we have to actually get that message out. Like you can if Zach wanted to start a pressure washing business and make some money on the side as a 15-year-old boy, you could easily upload that on Facebook and already have heaps of people reach it. And that makes it heaps easier for him to get work rather than what you might have done is go and knock on doors and say, hey, do you need your front lawn pressure washed?
That's interesting you say that because social media came about, I think probably now if I think about it, I think it's about 20 years ago, which means I would have been mid-20s. And even when it started, it by no means was as big as what it is today because when it started out for us, it was Facebook. But you are right. Things for us, like when it came to, say, jobs, after-school jobs and stuff, you would have to get the local paper or you'd have to make some kind of flyer and do a letterbox drop to then even have a phone number, which had to be a home number. So you had to be home to answer it. So I think going back then, those kind of things were harder because social media has opened up so much more ease in today's society.
Heaps.
So what about in regards to, say, social pressures, though? Do you think it was harder for us than it was for you? Because now that social media is out, so much more of your life is exposed. When I was growing up, life wasn't exposed unless somebody knew you personally. You guys are exposed not only on what you post on social media, but, for example, me as your parent, I post photos of you guys on my social media. So there are social pressures put on you without you even seeing or realising. So do you think in regards to social pressures it's harder or easier?
Harder. I definitely think that now generation, because of all the phones and social media, the whole social life is a lot harder because back when you were a kid, it was just going to school or hang out on the weekends. But for us, it's like posting on Instagram stories and Snapchatting, and it's always you have to hold this image on social media to get a certain like appearance or have certain people look at you the way that you want them to. So in some cases, it's like it's mostly fake because it's not 100% the real you. Whereas back in the day, it was only the real you because it was interacting IRL. Whereas now it's always social media.
Says IRL.
In real life. My bad.
Yeah. For all you people my age listening, IRL stands for in real life.
LOL.
That was actually really good how you threw that in there. That actually threw me. I'm like, okay,
My
I don't know
bad.
what IRL means.
It's okay,
Go
Dad.
with it.
I'll help you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. Any abbreviations you throw out, can you just like break them down a bit more so I understand what you're talking about? So what about when it comes to social pressures and things like that? I totally agree with you. Like it's, you actually said something interesting then. Something like if you go back into our day, I had no other option other than to be real. So do you think that's created a forced fakeness in today's society then? Because you can be fake so easily. I couldn't be. Now I can. Growing up, I couldn't be. So do you think it's a forced fakeness?
Yes, because on social media you can literally be anyone, and like you could either be yourself, be another person. Especially with AI, you could completely like pretend to be a celebrity. You could pretend to be literally anyone because of social media. It's all pretty much fake. You don't have to be yourself. Like there's been many people that would be like, oh yeah, I'm so nice online and whatnot, but then in real life they're really nasty. It's just you never really know.
Yeah, like someone's social media presence could be like, oh, I just went to church on Sunday or something, or I just served at this shelter, and then like in real life they're actually nothing like what they're presenting themselves to be on social media. Like it's like they pinpoint and find the good things about themselves and really shine that through their social media so that people can go and look and go, that's who they are. Oh, that's who they are as a person. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, I'm going to like that post because I didn't know they did that. But if you look back and actually like meet them in person, you kind of go like, oh, okay, I didn't know that about you. Oh, right. Like you don't really know. You can't figure out everything about a person just based off their social media. I mean, some people you can. Most people are pretty authentic, but you'd be shocked to find that a lot of people on social media aren't who they actually are. Like who they present themselves to be on social media can be very different to who they actually are.
So with you guys being born into an era and being the generation that's been born into social media as being the norm, and then we just hearing then that there's an absolute forced fakeness. How do we, as our generation, get the real you? Because you guys were born into an era that's allowed you to be fake, and it's actually encouraged you to be fake. I mean, you look at the amount of filters that are out there. You can take a photo now and edit it and crop it and cut it and do whatever you call it. I didn't even know. But you can edit it in so much of a way. So how do we get the real you?
I guess you only really get the real person if you actually have that quality time with them to actually know who they are. Because there's a difference between knowing who someone is through what you see on their social media to actually having a sit-down conversation with the person. Like, if I were to scroll through someone's social media for an hour, I could find out some stuff and read some stuff. But if I sit down and have a conversation with someone for an hour, I could learn 10 times more than what I could on their social media. So, could you repeat the question?
Just saying, how do we get the real you?
How do I get the real you? Yeah, I definitely think having a sit-down conversation and quality time with that person will find the genuine person that they are.
Do you think that lacks in today's parenting style? Do you think that there's a disconnect between parenting and their children? Do you think there's a disconnect in quality time that you mentioned?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When someone comes home from school, they go to their room and scroll on their phone, or they go into their room and play Fortnite.
No, you don't, Zach.
They go into their room and play Fortnite on their computer. I do it too. I can't really complain.
Almost every kid
But
does that.
I definitely think that there is that disconnection. Like, if a kid doesn't come home from school and go scroll on their phone, they're a very unique person, because that's pretty much what the norm is now, is come home, watch TV, play video games, scroll on your phone, message your friends, that kind of stuff. So I definitely think there's that disconnection. The only connection you might have is over dinner. And even then, a lot of families allow phones at the table, and as soon as someone finishes dinner, they just leave. Like, I think that's become heaps more prominent today.
You can also see that a lot in public as well. Like, if you go out for dinner, before us kids, we would like, some restaurants would have like a playground where we go out, interact with other kids, and
literally
be social. But now if you go out for dinner, you see kids sitting at the table on this big iPad, or if you go to the shops, we used to sit in the trolleys and like talk to our mum while she goes shopping, or we like reach and point at things and ask questions. But now if you go to the shops, kids are sitting in the trolleys on their iPads. Like, it's all technology.
So do you think then, from a child's perspective, do you think that's a cop-out as a parent? Like, is that, because I know a lot of parents do that because it instantly occupies you. Like, let's just use the shopping example, right? Like, we go shopping, you're an 18-month-old rat bag of a kid in a trolley making a hell of a lot of noise, right? Now, everyone just points back.
No, just slow.
Yeah, my eyes were like that. But for example, you're shopping. You're a mother. Dad's at work. You're a mother at home. You're pushing this kid around. He's a rat bag. Instead of the whole constant settle down, to give them an iPad is an instant settle down. But do you think that's a cop out, or do you think that's good parenting to some degree?
I think there's both sides to that, because if the kid's a rat bag and he just won't stop, the iPad's good just to have like a little cool down moment, just to get like finish getting done what you need to get done. But then also, then the kid learns to be always has to have something going on every single second. Like, they never learn to be bored. Like, I feel like kids nowadays need to learn how to be bored, because that's when they start to learn things themselves. Whereas if you have an iPad, as soon as that gets taken away, you're always like, oh, I need that next, what is it, dopamine hit?
Dopamine hit,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like, oh, I need that next dopamine hit. And they're teaching those kids from a really young age, which means they'll continue to be rat bags, because like, I need something to keep me entertained. So I feel like kids need to learn to be bored, and the parents aren't giving them that because they're giving them the iPad.
So what's an alternative then? What should we do as parents then if there's an alternative? Is it another way? Does it tie into what you were saying, Caleb, about quality time? How do we combat both those in one?
As much as it sucks for a lot of like teenagers, screen time is important. As in, like, having a screen time lock is what I mean. Like, having a downtime. Like, for example, you used to have this lock on our apps where at a certain time period, apps would turn off, you wouldn't be able to use them, and it sucked. It really did. But it got us doing other things together. Like, even though it's still video games, we played Mario Kart together.
Yeah.
We
even
played,
made like board games.
we made
our own
board games, like our own
Oh,
board
I
games.
remember
Just
that.
yeah,
That
just
was
to
so fun.
just to occupy ourselves and deal with that boredom. Like what Samuel was saying, you guys put us in the position of being bored to go and do something. Like another example would be when we were kids and we lived in New South Wales, and we used to go out front with our neighbours on the road and play what we called a zombie game, where we would pretend to have superpowers.
I remember that.
We would pretend to have superpowers each, and we would customize it to our own liking, and then play with the neighbors on the road and pretend we were killing these invisible zombies. And we just looked like these little weird kids throwing punches in the air.
It's like what I do now.
But we didn't. I think iPad Mini just came out around that time, and I think I got one for Christmas. But I zombie game was 10 times cooler than my iPad Mini.
Yeah.
So it's like these days we have iPhones, iPads, laptops. You can take them anywhere pretty much. They're
VR.
like, yeah,
The
VR.
Apple Vision Pro, people
And
walking around with them on their face.
There's no need to actually go out front and do that anymore, because we have an iPad that has a real zombie game that you can play with your friend from school in half an hour away. Because, like, it's easier. So, yeah.
That's thinking about the story, because it's funny you've said that story, because when you ask both Mum or myself, some of the best memories we have of you kids growing up were when we were back in New South Wales and having those afternoon times.
Yeah.
Because I remember I would drive home from work and I remember coming up the street and the thought in my head as I was coming up the street about to take that right-hand turn, I knew that the moment I saw the house, there would be some times where, Samuel, you'd be in that little Tonka truck and you'd be coming down.
yeah.
You'd have your blue wiggle shirt on and just a nappy.
Yes.
And you would have walked the truck all the way to the top of the hill and then just turn around, sit in it and just let it coast at the most smoothest, calmest pace all the way down. And sometimes I'd be driving up the hill about to see our house, but then I'd see you first come down like in front of me, this little truck. But there's one of the best things that I remember as a father with you kids, right? And it makes me think this, right? As good as games are, because I know you guys have got amazing PC setups with your gaming and things like that, and I know how much you love them, and I know how much I'm not going to use the word restrict because I don't think we've restricted you, but I think we've done what we could to teach you in regards to timing it and how it ties into normal life. But it's funny hearing you say, though, that it is actually more fun, the real life stuff, the interaction. And it makes me think this, right? Because me growing up back in the 80s, that's all we had. All we had was imagination. All we had was friendship groups and BMX bikes. Video games were an Atari that one in every 20 households had, and it was one game that was played with a weird joystick and was rarely done. So all we had was playing on the road or playing on bikes or playing at a park and imagination-style games. Only having that, and then me growing up to being the type of guy I am now because of that upbringing, what do you see when you're 45 now, how do you see you being my age when your upbringing wasn't the whole, it incorporated the fun stuff like that, but it's also a lot of gaming and stuff. Now, what do you see you being 45 now when your upbringing was so much impactful through games?
Well, I think there is still going to be a bunch of stuff that changes. Like, for example, the whole imaginary, playing on the road and stuff. And the iPads and the phones were just being introduced. This is when I was 8 years old. I do think there's still going to be changes from when we're your age and we do have kids. There's still going to be changes where new things are going to come out and stuff, but I feel like it's not going to change too much. So I reckon us boys growing up, having those stuff, we're going to understand a lot about it. And once we get to the point where we don't play video games on a computer as much or whatever, we actually will understand, okay, this is how we did it, and it's not too different now. I mean, there's still a bunch of new stuff out, because, it's going to be in however many years, there's going to be new stuff. But I really feel like since it was a completely new thing for you guys, it's harder to work around. Whereas if technology is such a big thing now, and we've been lucky enough to grow in it and grow up in it. So we have the understanding in it. If the amount of technology that we have today wasn't introduced, I think you guys would have a lot easier time, parenting us. But it's the fact that something like this was just introduced and brought up and okay, this is new. Oh, now my kid wants to play his iPad for however long. All right, sure. I feel like since we've grown up in that, it'll be a lot easier for us to deal with it in the future because we know what it is.
Do you think it'll be a parenting style that you incorporate the same way that we did? Do you think it'll be would you mirror that or would you change?
As in
when you
screen
have kids,
time and stuff like that? Oh, 100%. Yeah,
100%. What you'd change it or do the same thing?
I would probably do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that as much as it sucked for us, because we had the downtime and we wanted to be on the iPads, but it still helped. We still made the board games, like we said. We still played Mario Kart together and stuff like that. And we even have our Sundays no game day, which I still think's great. So I wouldn't see why not. Why wouldn't we have a screen time? We wouldn't want, because technology is only going to become more popular. It's not dying down. It's growing fast. So I feel like it'd be kind of stupid not to introduce some sort of screen downtime, because that's what's going to become normal. More normal.
Yeah.
Is screens.
So do you think that raises more of a challenge for you? Because if you've seen the introduction, well, you haven't seen the introduction. You've seen our generation saw the introduction of technology the way it is now. you guys are growing up with it. Do you think that's becoming more of a challenge as it increases even more? Like you've got AI now. That like the last 12 months and what AI has done is only going to get extremely more advanced. Do you see that as a challenge when you raise your kids?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because specific reason. Having a screen downtime leads to kids being sneaky.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we always did that.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Well, actually,
We'll cut there. That's it. That's all you get. No. We've us three boys combined found so many different ways to go around what you guys put in place.
Just taking notes.
Wow,
Give me a
thanks,
sec,
Cale.
guys. Keep going.
I'm being
Hang
real,
on.
but we don't do it
Who was the
anymore
worst?
because
Oh, no, not
we-
anymore.
Zach, no, no. Honestly, we found so many different ways around what you guys put in place. Like if you put a passcode on our apps, we would find out that passcode because of the different things coming out. Like AI, it's gonna be scary. It's it's a scary thing. Like you've seen like videos of people's faces being perfectly mimicked and stuff like that. And like, yeah, I think it's only gonna get worse and harder to avoid. But I feel like we got really sneaky with like the screen time you put in place.
Yeah.
We found ways around it, and that's the one thing. One of the big things I'm going to be looking out for is, okay, if I do put this thing in place, how would they go around trying to get rid of it and stuff like that? Because I feel like it promotes being sneaky. It's like, oh, my friends are online, but I'm banned and my screen time's been turned off. How can I sneak this? Or maybe I'll sneak my phone into my room at 1 a.m. You know what I mean? Like, I think it promotes the sneakiness, and that's the one thing I'm like, oh, okay, let's see what happens here.
Yeah, with the whole sneakiness things, I'm not going to say names, but I have a handful of friends who their parents have a lot stricter, like, screen time rules than we do, and they are extremely sneaky. Like, they're really good friends, but when it comes to their phones or computers or technology, they are so sneaky about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually, I feel like the stricter parents are with the screen time, the more sneaky, untrustworthy kids they create. So I feel like there's definitely that little sweet spot, and I think you and Mum definitely found that with us. But if it's too little, the kids like are always on their screen time. You don't get quality time. You don't get to know them. But then if it's too much rules and strict, then they become sneaky, untrustworthy behind your back. So
with the introduction of things like that, do you think, I'm not going to say, do you think that's us being mean? Because I know you're going to say it's, of course it's not. But as young boys growing up, do you see the sense in as to why we've introduced those kind of screen times? Like, do you understand why?
oh yeah,
As we've gotten older, yeah,
Yeah.
100%. In the moment, we were fuming.
oh
Like,
yeah.
you kidding me? This is so stupid. I'm not even on my phone that much. Oh, what? I come home from school and I don't get to go on my phone and play with my friends. This sucks. Like, it flipping sucked. But looking back, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, all right, I see it.
Because it's one thing as a father, because one of the things that we've talked a lot about in Average Joe's is the 3 Ps that make a man, which is to protect, provide, preside, meaning to lead, right? So as a protector, what we've had to deal with as men this last generation is to be the protector. Most of the time that means physically able to protect you, right? If someone was to break into the house, Dad puts his life on the line to protect. But one thing we've had to learn this last generation is to protect you from a whole different angle of attack, which is through anything to do with social media and stuff, phones and what phones can do. Because yes, I want to protect you from physical harm, but what we're learning nowadays is there's a psychological harm, there's a mental harm, there's a spiritual harm, there's all these different attacks that is out to get you as younger men. Because if marketing can target younger men, and we can somehow, when I say we, I mean target, like marketing. If marketing can target younger men and get them to believe a certain lifestyle or to believe a certain way of living or to believe a certain whatever, your young, impressionable minds are easy to impress. And so that's what us as older men, we see this now and we go, wow, this is why we want to protect. So the challenge for us has become harder because protecting you physically, that's what it used to be. But now we're so aware of what things do mentally and psychologically and all that kind of stuff. Not only are we aware of that, but as natural, instinctively being protectors that we are, we have to protect you of those kind of things too. So especially with the introduction of technology nowadays, we've had to learn on what it takes to protect you from that, because there is a world out there that, and I know you guys, the older you've gotten, you've seen it, you've experienced yourself through things that have, exposures of certain things. But there's a world out there that it's a hard world. It's a tough world. And the world will do whatever it can to get to you through things like your phone. And so as a father, to protect you, this is why we put things in place to go, we're not being mean and by saying, because we had a saying growing up that our parents used to use to us is that, if you sit in front of the TV too long, you get square eyes. Everybody knew you wouldn't get square eyes, but I don't even know why it even came about, but our parents just didn't want us to be in front of the TV all the time. But for TV, for us, it was very, very limited types of cartoons and things like that. So I didn't even see much anyway. With you guys, you have instant availability, which will give instant gratification on anything you want to see, know about, experience, research, whatever, at the flick of a button on a phone. So when we, as parents, want to protect you for that, it's for a damn good reason.
Yeah.
We want you guys to be safe, truly, because there's a hard world out there. When it comes to fathering, what do you think there's a sign that makes a good father? You guys have got friends, you don't need to name names or anything like that, but when you look at, that's a good father, what does it mean to you from a 17, 19, 15-year-old's perspective? What's the sign of a good dad?
Someone that's present, because I have a lot of friends, and even people that aren't friends, a lot of people my age who, because their fathers aren't present, they really, really struggle with a lot of things in their life, like friendships or family issues. They just really struggle because lack of a father to teach them how to be a man. So I reckon a present father that's there, that's what is one thing that makes a good dad.
When you say a present father, do you mean a father that's not from like a divorced kind of family, or do you mean a father that's always at work kind of present?
Mostly divorced family, but also father that works all the time. I mean, that one's not too big of an issue because he will come home, he will have like that moment at night to like interact with these kids. Because when we were little, you used to wake up at 4 a.m, leave for work, wouldn't come home till 7. So we wouldn't see you till the end of the night, and then we'd go to bed at 7:30. That was our sleep time when we were kids. So, but that was never really a big issue when we were growing up. So I feel like it's more the divorced families where the lack of a father figure is what makes kids struggle. So I feel like a present father is definitely something that makes a good dad.
So when you say present, though, also, I think being present is a two-edged sword. I think on one edge, it's exactly what you're saying, where it's literally having a father around, and which, you understand, it's sad when you do see broken relationships and broken families. And sadly, a lot of relationships break down because the mother and father focus so much on being parents, they forget that their main role is to be a spouse. See, because, when Mum and I got married, I came on the back of seeing my parents go through a breakup and then hearing the reason that they went as long as they did was because they just wanted to focus on raising kids. And when the kids were raised, they felt their job was done, so they packed up and said, well, we're splitting. And I said to your mum that when we get married, that's not going to be the case. You will be my number one priority as my spouse, and we'll raise a family, which is going to be phenomenal. But my priority will be you. And so when you see a lot of family breakups happen, sadly, it's not because of the kids by any means. It's because of the lack of parenting that's done, where it's more you need to focus on strengthening the spouse, and out of that you can then be a great parent. But sadly, we see so many broken relationships happen because all they do is seem to focus on being a parent and lose touch on what it means to be a spouse, which then in turn creates even a bigger problem from what you're saying, because then you now have because majority of the time when a family breaks up, it's the kids that go with the mother, and the dad ends up getting hit hard with child allowances and paying this and paying that. Anyway, that's a whole different story. But I mean, what you get hit with is an even harder thing to deal with because now the dad's barely around at all. But that's one edge of it, looking at it going, well, a father that's not present at all because of divorce or relationship breakdown. What about a father that is home, but even though he's home, doesn't seem present? And I'll tell you an example, and I know I've done well. I've done as best I can as this as a father, telling myself, but I know I've never been perfect at it. But this only happened about 2 nights ago, maybe 3 nights ago, and it was with you. And I don't know if you... I noticed it, and I thought to myself straight away, I went, oh, you idiot. I noticed it right away. You came in, and it was about 20 past 7 at night. We just had finished dinner. We just finished cleaning up. And I went into the back lounge room, and I had an email come through on my phone. And I was typing back to an email, right? And you came into the back lounge room, and you went, hey, Dad, do you want to finish watching off Spider-Man? I said, yeah, for sure. And you pressed play, and it started, right? And I was still typing on my phone, right? And it lasted about 2 minutes. And you turned it off, and you went, I want to go upstairs. And I said to you, why are you going upstairs? And do you remember what you said to me?
I think I said that I was going to like join a call, play a game with my mate. And then you said, oh, come on, let's finish this. And I think I said, nah, it's all right. You're on your phone anyway.
Yeah. Oh, mate.
Damn, I feel bad now.
No, don't. No, here's
You're
the
a
thing.
terrible
Don't you
person.
feel bad.
You're a terrible
You're a
person.
terrible person, Samuel.
It's crazy.
No. Don't you feel bad. This is a lesson as a father because I know the effort I make to be present, and I know I missed that one right there. Because when you just turned it off, I then went, put my phone down, and I went, where are you going? You went, I'm going to jump on a call. And I said, oh, I thought we were going to finish the movie. And you did. You went, oh, you're on your phone anyway. You weren't saying it to be rude or bad. It was like totally calm. But when you left, I went, wow, I literally just missed an opportunity to be present. Because in my head, and I know a lot of fathers think this way, act this way, and do this very thing, we try to tie up so many loose, important ends really quickly, like whether it be an email or something for work, and we try to do it as discreet and as, not affecting everybody else around us. We try to do it as fast as we can because I want to be present. I make it a big effort to be present, but I remember that just 2 nights ago, and I just finished them quick and then put it down. You went, oh, that's right, you're on your phone anyway, and you weren't saying it out of malice. But I went, oh, wow, like I literally right then and there missed an opportunity.
But that also goes.
So you can go
ways.
now, Samuel. No.
But he's gonna go watch Spider-Man.
Yes, he's gonna go finish it by
I'm
himself.
gonna go watch Spider-Man now.
With your real dad.
You just open an email.
I've got an email to finish. Go find a good dad.
Oh, we're going to have to pause the podcast and do an email real quick. Oh, it's fine, Dad.
Oh, see you.
See, I'll just go watch Spider.
No, but I feel like that goes both ways. I feel like that goes hand in hand with father being present, but also the kids being present.
Yeah.
A father could definitely go through the effort of trying to to be present with their kids, but it's another thing if they're sitting watching a movie with their kids and they're on their phones. Like, I feel like this conversation, although this is directed to fathers at the moment, fathers also need to address it to their kids as well. Like, hey, you also have to be present. These times are going to fly real quick. And you say it to me all the time. You say, hey, mate, you don't realize, but you're going to look back at these days and go, man, I wish I was a bit more present. Man, I wish I didn't spend as much time on my computer or out with my mates. Like, as much as all those things are great, like having all your mates and going out with them and having a good time, sometimes often is a bit too often, and you also do need to spend some time here. I'm a pretty busy guy at the moment. Like, I spend most of my nights out because I've got a lot of different commitments, like being a youth leader and running a connect group and all that stuff. So I have maybe 1 or 2 days a week where I'm actually free, and one of them I spend with my girlfriend, and the other one I try to be home, but even then, it's kind of just like a have dinner, everyone kind of separates. So it's like every time an opportunity comes up to be present, I really try to go through the effort of actually being able to go. Like, I'd be like, all right, I can push this aside tonight to be here. Like, example, cousins came over for dinner the other day. I could have gone out to a leaders thing that I was supposed to go to, but I was kind of like, oh, I can afford to miss out. I'll just be here tonight. Like, I feel like fathers still need to have that conversation with their kids about being present. Like I said, it's a two-way thing. It's one thing for a father to be present it's another thing for the actual kid or teenager to be present as well. Because time flies. I'm already 19. It went in a flash.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like just the other day I was in New South Wales as a 10-year-old, and now I'm 19, adult, out of school, sitting here talking about this. Like, it went so quick, and you don't see it. Like, you're about to get your P's. Does that not feel weird? Like, you're nearly 17.
That's in like, yeah, 3
you can nearly
months.
drive alone, and you nearly drive.
Yeah.
Like, just like put that in your head for a second. Go,
remind
holy
me.
crap!
Yeah, in 3 months. I
And
could
you're
go off my own.
grey.
I actually saw a photo of me the other day. Was it last week? I was holding a friends come over and they had a newborn baby, and I was holding the baby, and the photo was taken from up top.
Oh, the light.
Oh, starting to see that.
You can see the
little
reflection
round.
of the camera.
I can see who was taking the photos. Very funny. Yeah. So, look, as a father, then, because I'm glad you've said that, because that is something that I've said to you many, many times. So, how do we, as a father, then? Because one thing we need to do, there's nothing there's no way that you'll learn more as an introduction to become a young man than for us to step back and watch you go through things, right? Because you're at that age, you're 19, so we need to go, wow, this is him now finding his feet. This is him now growing wings and ready to fly himself. What's too much and what's too little? Like, if we put pressure on you to stay around, what's overdoing it? Should we sit back and let you make every one of those decisions, or should we put our foot down and go, no, you need to be here? What goes through the mind as a 19-year-old?
I think you need to be loose and go, okay, you want to go out tonight. Still care though. Still show that you care by saying, hey, I still want you home by this time. Like, message, hey mate, how's your night going? Or hey, you on your way home yet? Just reaching out, because it actually shows that, okay, my parents do care. Like, they don't care if I'm just out till whenever. So I don't think I have a good example for too much, but I still think you need to, like you said, take a step back and take a step back and actually let some things happen. Because there's a really good example of my friend told me a story about when he was a kid, and there was this they were camping. There was this hot pan on the stove. Like, I'm talking like just hot enough to like make your skin go ah. And he was maybe like 6 years old, and his dad saw him walking over to this pan, and his mum was like, aren't you going to stop him? And he's like, no, he needs to figure it out. He's like, he needs to figure out that pan's hot. So
Absolutely,
my
I totally
mate,
agree with
my
that.
mate walked over, goes, and he's crying, he's hugging mum, and his mum's like, why would you let him touch you? He's like, well, now he knows that pan's hot, and he's not going to do it again.
Absolutely.
So I feel like taking that step back is allowing them to go, okay, well, as much as I don't want him to touch that pan, as much as I don't want him to get hurt, I'm going to let it happen, because they'll know next time, right, this is what's going to happen, and it's going to suck.
And
I totally agree.
also, because younger kids are always curious when growing up, like they want to learn stuff. It's just the human mind. If the dad instead was like, oh no, don't touch that, it's hot. The kid, he's curious. He's going to be like, oh, but like, how hot is it? Like, is it hot enough to hurt me? Is he overreacting?
Is
like,
it really hot?
Is it really that hot? Like, it just makes him want to do it more. Like, kind of like the don't push that button thing. It's like it makes you want to touch it. So letting him experience itself.
Do you
learning.
think that's a curiosity more because you're boys compared to girls, or do you think the curiosity is bigger within young men?
I'm going to say yes, but I don't really have like a thing to back it up.
See, this is where we need Chelsea in here
Yeah.
to give that side, because I don't really know. I know that guys have a lot of curiosity and want to figure out things, because there's that sense of independence. Like, I want to go out and I want to do my own thing. Like another example, Samuel's just started to come out late night with me on a Friday night after youth group. So he'll stay back, help pack up and everything, and then we'll go to McDonald's at around 11 o'clock and stay out till about midnight, and I come home. And I remember when I first started doing this with my leader at the youth group, I remember mum was kind of like, oh no, I'm not happy with this at all. Why? What's the point? Like, why? But then you were like,
Go for it, mate.
Go for it.
Bring me back some nuggets, mate.
Yeah, literally. And it's kind of just like, I go like, Mom, you don't understand. I just want to be able to do my own thing. Like, why are you holding me back? How old was I? I was like 16 or 17 or something. I was like, Mom, I'm already 16. Like, when is the age going to come when you're going to be like, okay, fine. Because like, for me, I'm like, that's now. Like, all my friends are going. Like, I want to go. Like,
I remember having that conversation with Mum.
yeah, no, I think I came home to it.
Because
Maybe, I don't know.
because we'd go to bed and it'd be like 10:30, 11, and Mum would be like, "He's not home yet," and I'd be like, "Babe, let it go." Like he's
Tracking me on the life.
yeah,
360.
look, watching exactly your whole movement on the phone. I'm like,
Why is he doing 101?
where is he? Who's he with?
I'm calling him.
Yeah, why are you calling him? Stop it. But I'd go to sleep, and I remember I'd wake up, and it'd be like 10:12, and she'd still be sitting up in bed with her phone. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? He's not home yet still. Don't worry about it. And it's not that I didn't care. It's just that I knew exactly what's going through the mind of a young man, is that he's seeking that independence and he's seeking that, wow, I am out and my parents aren't here. Like I'm actually out with people that I know personally. This is a circle of friends that I've made. I'm here with them and wow, look at the time. And I know that feeling. It's a lot better going back to when I was that age in the streets of Western Sydney and Penrith. I remember walking the streets by myself at that time of night. Things were a lot, well, I'm not going to say a lot
That's
safer.
back to what I was saying before about at the very start
Yeah.
when I was talking
Yeah.
about being able to ride your bike on the streets, and like us, it wouldn't be so much.
But I used to, because I know I told you guys this story too, but I used to carry knives. I used to have two big knives in my jeans.
Yeah, we do too. No.
Better be good knives.
Show me.
Put them in my collection. No, but I remember I had a big bag of jeans. I'll take my shirt off, flick it over my shoulder. I had a big hat, and I'd have knives. Now, I'd never use the knife, although there's another story about one time we did.
Oh.
Hey, whoa.
You're so cool.
Dropping some dad lore.
I want to be like you when I'm older, Dad.
But that was me, and I'm not saying this as a recommendation to anybody, but that was me finding my feet. I was 16, 17, finding that type of independence. And I'm glad that my dad stayed back. He always cared. He just wanted to know, and this is what we say to you, where you're going and what time.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
Because I think a lot of it too comes down to with the way that we've raised you, we have to trust you. But the reason we can trust you is because we're backing the way we've parented you to be trustworthy to us. So when I can say to you, yeah, go for it, mate, let us know where you are, who you're with, and just let us know all the time, I can then not close the door to that, but I can now put it in a compartment that goes, I'm not going to worry, I'm not going to be concerned. I know where he is, who he's with, and what time he's coming home, done.
Yep.
But it is different from mothers because mothers do have that compassion and that emotion and that kind of attachment. Whereas I like that story about your friend because I totally agree. You walk up to the hot pan, let him touch it. Because at the end of the day, 1-2 days later, that little throbbing thing's going to be okay. He's going to forget about the pain, but he will remember the touching of that's hot. So then that's a physical sit back for a father and let him go and physically get slightly hurt to go, well, he'll not do it again. Where then do we sit back and allow, say, emotional or mental things that have those kind of hurts? Because I know I've had conversation with you guys before when it comes to relationships, right? Is that I'm a big believer in courting somebody and courting meaning that there's no, in my opinion, if you're 15, 16, we'll stop it at 16, maybe 17, but say you're 15, 16 or 13, whatever age you are, I don't see the sense in having a girlfriend because you're not going to get, chances are, I'm not going to say you're not, but chances are you won't be married to the person. So I go, just be their friend, be a close friend, be a great friend, not a problem just to hang out, that's great, but there's no need to be boyfriend, girlfriend because that opens up a whole new, what I used to say to you, a can of worms. And the moment you open the can of worms, the worms are out going and it's hard to control. So when we can sit back and let you walk up to a hot pan and go, it's all right, let him do it because he's going to get hurt by it, he won't do it again. How do we do that when it comes to relationships, when we see you get into relationships and every part of us goes, I want to stop him from touching that because I know he's going to get burnt. Knowing though at the end of the day, I'll let him go through with it because he's going to learn from it, whereas deep down we don't want you to experience the pain. The physical we can get over because part of us as men go, You're big, you're tough, you're strong, you're a man. Copper, mate, it's a bump on the finger. That kind of pain is different to an emotional pain or a mental type of pain. So how do we watch you go through that style of walking up and touching something? How do we sit back, or should we sit back? Should we interrupt more and intervene more and go, whoa, whoa, whoa? Because you just said the more, Sam would have said it before, the more a parent comes in and says, no, 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 don't. Your curiosity then kicks in more and makes you want to do it more.
Yeah, like why?
Yeah, so if we can let you touch a pan and go, it's all right, he'll touch it, we'll get over it. We also want to do the same thing with other areas. Should we be doing the same thing, or should we let you just go and have your curiosity and go with what's going through your head?
You're going to get 3 different answers.
Yeah.
Because it's not only your influence and your experiences, it also follows through mine and through his and through his. Because you've been through it, you've experienced it, and you're telling me as the eldest, hey mate, I don't think this is a good idea. You're very young, or like whatever advice you're giving me, but you're still gonna let me go through it and learn. Like I had a grade 10 relationship. I was like 16 years old. And like you made it clear, you're like, look, man, I don't think it's gonna work out. Sorry, no, you didn't say that. You said, look, I don't think it's the best idea, but go for it. Like, I'm not gonna stop you. Do what you think's best. And I did. And I mean, it didn't work out. And I truly believe it's not just what you've taught me, it's also what Samuel can now learn from me and you. Like, it's one thing for you to tell me as a grown adult, hey man, this is what I went through, but it's like, oh, but you're like, this is ages ago. Like, yeah, but I'm only 2 years older than him, so he can actually look at me and go, okay, maybe he's got a point. Like, I feel like it's gonna carry on through your kids. Like, these 2 boys, like, I'm not trying to like hype myself up. I know these 2 like look up to me to some extent.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but my experiences are almost, I wouldn't say better, but are more relatable to these 2 than what you could teach them, rather than what I can teach them from what you've taught me. Like, what you've taught me, and then I've gone through with it, learnt myself. I feel like these boys are going to more so resonate with their older brother rather than their dad. Because you're married, you have kids, you're in a relationship that's lasted, or whatever the situation is. These 2 boys have an older brother who's been in their situation 2 years back and have gone through it, and now they're in it, and it's just been more recent, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So look at, I think the way you've answered that is great, right? Because that makes me think this. Although you're only 2 years apart, and you are all brothers, you are also peers, because you're in an age bracket that does or can hang out together, because 2 years apart means nothing, right? So for you to say that the effect, because I get it, when I give advice or when I give direction or whatever it is, at the end of the day, yes, I'm your father, but at the end of the day, I'm still an older man that can be seen as, well, what would you know? Like, this is a whole different generation. And I get that, because I had the same thoughts and same conversations with my dad. I get it. You're my dad, and you're doing these and saying these things because you love me. But at the end of the day, like, you are this much older than me. You're not really in this generation. So I get that part, right? But then what you said was, but the impact that you would have on him, because you're only 2 years apart, is a lot more relatable, which goes to show the importance of having the right circle of people around you.
Absolutely.
Because the age bracket, again, although there's a father-son relationship, but the age bracket between us compared to the age bracket between you guys, because it is so much relatable, it proves the benefit. So it goes to show that men that are listening to this, raising boys and girls, just raising their kids, the importance of having the right influences around them in regards to their peers and the groups of people that they hang around, or you as a parent allowing them to hang around.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There's a statement that gets thrown around a fair bit, and I see it on a lot of stuff that I follow, pages that I follow, and I've heard it said many, many years. I'd like to get your guys, all three, your input and your thoughts on this, right? But there's a saying that gets thrown around, which is, at the end of the day, you're their father, you're not their friend, right? But I don't know if I agree or disagree with that. I'm more of a believer of, I think you can have a great balance of being both.
Yeah.
But what do you guys think in regards to that? Like, what's your experience with me as being your father and friend? Like, what's been the balance? Do you think it needs to be more one or the other? Do you think it worked or hasn't worked? When you hear the phrase "be their father, don't be their friend," do you agree or disagree, and as to why?
Disagree.
Disagree?
I disagree. I think a father needs to be a friend and a role model and a father figure. Like,
Yeah.
another example, when you and I go fishing, we're mates. Like, we muck around, we laugh, we crack jokes, we chuck on a song and sing it in a stupid way. And like when we're fishing, we'll like, I don't know, just sing like a stupid fish song or whatever. So like there's that balance between knowing the right time to be a friend and to be a dad. So like an example, like Samuel, what's a good example of like a dad situation? Zach, what's a
What do you mean by dad situation?
like there's a friend situation where a dad and I are out fishing and we're mucking around and joking around. But what's a situation where dads need to be a dad?
I kind of see it the same as like being a mate though. Like being a dad is like the exact same as being a mate for me. Because like they do all these things that like they care for you, they like want to hang out with you and everything. And that's exactly what a father and like a mate would do as well. So like for me it's just 50-50 with both of it.
I get what he's trying to say as well, because when you said we all know a mate moment with dad, but what's a dad moment?
Yeah.
What I can think of is like when I've gone through something rough, whether it be like physically, mentally, or whatever. Yes, I can go to dad. He's my father. He's going to give me advice how to get through. He's going to be there for me. But then also a mate can do that too, because there has been moments where I've been like, yo, I'm struggling with this. I'm going to go to a mate for it. So I guess in some sense, I don't agree with what was the statement again?
Be their father, not their friend.
I disagree with that, because I feel like if a father is a great mate, it can create a great relationship between the two.
Yeah. Sorry, say the quote again.
Be their father, not their friend.
Yeah, it should be like, be their father and their friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really good answer. I wasn't thinking of it like that. I was trying to think of two examples of like, one example of dad being a mate and one of dad being a dad. But it does go hand in hand. Because dad being a mate in that fishing boat is him being my dad. Is him spending time with me and like, you know, being my dad.
So are you wanting me to be your friend, or are you happy for me to just be your father?
I reckon both.
Yeah.
I think there's times for it. Different times for different things.
I think the way that you're doing it is already good enough, because even now we've tried to think of moments where it's like we've separated from dad from friend, but you've done such a good job where it's like the whole time it's like you're a friend. Because even if we go through hard times and we have our own opinion and you go, that's not right, it's actually this, that's a very dad moment. But then there's also friends where you go to them for advice, tell them your opinion, they'd be like, I disagree with you. I'm going to have to tell you the hard truth. This is what this is. I feel like you do a very good job of being father and friend, where you can't actually separate the two, which is what I actually think is good, that you can't separate the two.
Thanks, mate. Do you think you should be able to separate the two, or do you think you shouldn't be able to separate it?
There should be a way there should be a time to separate them.
Yeah.
You can't go into a serious conversation with your son with the mindset of, I'm their friend as well. I think there's a time where you go, no, I'm his dad. He needs to listen to me. Like, if, let's say I was being disrespectful, let's say that you tell me to go wash up the dishes, and I go like, oh, but Samuel did it. But I did it the other day. Why can't Samuel do it? Blah, 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 blah. That's where you come in as a dad and go, nah, mate, I told you to do something. You don't say blah, 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 blah. You say, yes, dad, I'll do it. That was it, dissension? Is that the word?
discernment.
of knowing the position of no, you don't like not without being rude, just with being serious and going, no, I'm your dad, you respect me, I respect what you're saying, but there comes a time when, all jokes aside, I'm still your dad, and you still got to listen to me, like it without like being a pushover, if that makes sense.
And do you think that the misbalance comes when fathers try to be too much of their sons' mates? Well, if our approach was to just try and be your mate more and more and more, do you think that's when the pushover then steps in? Because then if I was to then try to be the father and go, hey, I need you to do this, the fact that you would see me as, no, not really, because dad's a pushover because he's my mate. Do you think that's what the misbalance is that you're talking about?
Yeah. Like if we're cracking jokes so let's just say I'm cracking a joke that I would crack with you and we would laugh about it and joke around. If I were to like crack that joke with mum and mum be like, "Oi, don't say that kind of stuff," and then you come in and say, "Yeah, don't do that," and then I kind of go like, "What do you mean?" But like that's like we joke about that. Like, what do you mean? You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about?
Mum's not here. We laugh when she goes.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's a tough one.
It seems like a simple question, but the more you go into it, the harder it actually is to answer.
Yeah. I think it just depends. But I think it's really up to yourself to just decide that. Like I can't really sit here and go, okay, when's it? Because I'm not a dad, so I don't know yet.
I mean, we don't know that.
He's got a point there.
I have an announcement. No. But I think as a dad, you learn for yourself when the right time is to be a dad and be a friend, or be both.
Mm-hmm. Which raises another question, right? If you guys are going through a hard time, and we can see it on your face, you're down, you're giving off every signal, every sign that something's not right, and we come up to you and go, "Hey, what's wrong? Tell us what's wrong. Is everything okay?" And you say to us, "Nothing, don't want to talk about it." But you do go talk to a mate about it. Why do you think boys don't talk to their dad about it? Why do you think they say to their nothing, don't want to talk about it, it's nothing, let it go, but they will talk to their friend? Why do you think that is?
Fear. The
Fear of what? The retribution that comes of it? Or
disappointment.
Fear of disappointment that you would get from us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I could sleep after it. Let's just say that I've done something and I've messed up. Like, I don't know, an example. Let's just say I got into a fight and I really hurt someone. And let's just say that you're really against that, and like I come home and you're like, "Oh, dude, what's wrong?" I go like, nothing's wrong. And I tell my mate, "Hey, dude, I got into a fight and I'm really upset. Like, I'm really bummed about it because I shouldn't have done it. It was stupid." If I were to tell you and then you go like, "Oh, mate, like, I'm so upset with you. Like, I'm so annoyed that you did that," I think I couldn't go to bed and like lay in a house knowing that you guys are upset with me, and I have to be in that environment. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like it's a bit more of a free space when you're with your mate and you're telling him your problems. And again, the same perspective of like being closer in age. I think it's like you want someone like an example is like Zach will like chat in the car with me about something at youth camp or whatever it is. He'll like chat with me, but he'd rather chat with me than you for certain things. Like I like, for example, I could relate to him something more than what you could because of certain things. Like I went with him to this youth camp and you didn't. So I feel like he would chat with me about it because I guess I was with him. I don't know if I'm going down like a rabbit hole or...
No, I understand exactly what you're saying. Do you think that then is something that fathers should pursue more to try and get the answer out of you? Or do you think it's something that we should back off and go, "Okay, mate, leave it with you"?
I think back off.
Yeah, back off is probably
It's
the
like
best
the
answer.
pressure. It's like the more you push it, the more we're like
More
start
stress.
overthinking it, start stressing it. The more riled up we get, the more we're like, can you just stop? And then we get mad, and then there's the whole conflict. I think
But
less pressure is good.
But still express that they can communicate to you, that it is a safe space.
So what question should we ask? Or should we just leave it?
I think
So you come home and I can see it all over your face and I go, hey, buddy, what's up? And you go, nothing. Do I leave it right there and then? Do I
It's
ask
so
a
hard to
different question?
explain.
it's hard. It's hard because it just
Yeah.
depends on the situation, the severity of the situation. Sometimes I could be like, I could come home upset, and you could be like, "Oh, dude, what's up?" And I'll be like, "Oh, nothing. I just don't want to talk about it." Chances are, I'll probably come out with it later. I think give it a break, and then I think once they've taken that time away, that's when you reapproach it. Like, hey, what happened before? Do you want to talk about it? No, all right, all good. I think find times to revisit it, but give them that space.
Do you think it's past experiences too? Like, is there a time where you have told me and I've reacted differently to the way you've either wanted me to or expected me to?
Yes. I actually have an example of that. So it's not what you did.
Spider-Man.
So
Two nights ago.
Two nights ago, Dan.
when I was watching Spider-Man. Back in, I think it was like grade 8, which is like, you know, grade 8, I was like bullied and crap. And I remember coming home, I was really upset, like a couple days in a row. And you and mum just kept asking me like, what's wrong? And then one time you came to my room when I was on my own on my bed, and you like just sat down and you had like a proper like conversation with me about it. And it felt good getting it out and letting you know about what's going on. But then the thing that you did that I didn't like, which mum's probably not going to be happy because she listens to the podcast, but you went and told mum about it. And I understand why you told mum about it. I mean, like, she's your wife, she's my mum. It's good to get her in the loop, in the conversation, to let her know what's going on. Because I know from mum's point of view, her not knowing what's going on with her child is really hard. But then when that happened, I just wanted to like let the situation be what it is and just give it time to roll over. But she got really upset about it, called the principal, got involved, did all these different things. And as much as I love mum, it didn't help whatsoever, and in some cases actually made the situation worse. So I wish in some situations when I told you certain things, it would just be between us two, like just a man-to-man father-son thing, and not get mum involved.
Not saying there isn't those moments.
Oh, yeah.
No,
There's
absolutely.
definitely those moments, but I totally agree with Samuel on that.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing that's interesting though is I totally get that and I totally own that. What's interesting though is that the older that you guys have gotten, I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I
And I
have
think-
noticed that.
Yeah, because it was the way I see it is when you guys were younger, and this is no disrespect to you guys, but when you guys were younger, you weren't young men back then. You were boys. And that's in no disrespect, but I'm talking like, you know, you were 10 or 12 or like boys kind of age, right? So whatever, as a parent, whatever problem you were going through back then was I'll go talk to mum about it, and because both parents should know, because, you know, we want to know, we want to care for you. But definitely as you boys have gotten older, there's a whole different now level of respect that I've given you guys because you're young men now, that when we do talk, it stays with us. And there's been times where mum's gone, what was that about? And I go, oh, nothing, we just had a chat. Everything good? Yeah, everything's good. What was it about? Doesn't matter what it's about. We chatted out. Man to man, it is what it is. And so I've started to do that now more so because of the age that you guys have gotten. And I think it's a level of respect that comes with the older you get. That I know I know the things that you go through now at your ages, so I can relate to them because obviously I've been there. But no, I definitely get that.
It's interesting to think about for sure. I didn't really think about that. I mean, I haven't had a situation similar to that before,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Reason being, and you guys will realise this, the older you get, and this is where a lot of relationships break down with marriages too, is that the way when you communicate to a man is men are natural problem solvers. And problem solvers means that you fix issues. So we like to fix things. So when things are presented to us as men, we're hearing it as, this is my problem, how do I solve it? So when men hear things that come to us with, oh, you're not going to believe it, this, you'll find this in marriages, and you'll find this the older you get, is that you look at a marriage couple, right? A wife will say, oh, this happened at work, and this, boom, boom, boom. And the dad instantly comes back with, oh, well, you need to do this. This. And that's not what she's wanting to hear. She's just wanting someone to listen. But men naturally are problem solvers. We're Mr. Fix-Its. We just want to fix it, right? And so when we, from a father's perspective, when we hear things that go on, whether it be an issue with someone at school or something like that, we're wanting to fix it. And so it is hard for us sometimes to hear a problem and not want to fix it. It is tough, because I remember when you went through some stuff with school, and I hear, you hear certain names get dropped every now and then. It comes up as the same name gets dropped every time. Every part of me wants to go to the school and just rip the kid's head off. And I'm the kind of guy that I had to be controlled not to go there. I remember one time, I don't know, I think you know this story, but remember I stared that kid down in assembly. Sounds so bad as a kid.
Oh,
I've heard that as well.
I know that.
You've told me about
Yes.
that as well.
Must have pissed himself.
Oh,
that would have been
no.
so
Oh,
I think
scary.
he was
Imagine being
scared.
that
You're
kid.
like 6'4".
He avoided me.
This full
Yeah,
grown
but-
man just staring you
Yeah,
down.
but
That's so bad.
yeah, but you got to understand. Like,
I mean, it worked. I don't think
There
I
you
had
go.
any problems with him.
and I think every father out there listening to this would want to do the same thing. When you hear that your kid's getting bullied, right, it takes every part of you to stop you going there and doing something. And so obviously couldn't do something, but I knew that just my presence, I'm 6'4" and I'm not shy of 120 plus
That's where you
kgs
assigned me,
of
Caleb.
pure muscle.
Caleb, this is boy.
I did try to assign you
I know.
many times.
He told me not to go.
Nah, I did tell him not to go.
He's like, don't go, Caleb. I'm like, I'm
Please
going,
don't.
mate. Boys, join me.
But I remember going to that assembly. I think you year 4? Year 5?
4.
What year were you in?
It's like year 7.
A year 4 kid.
What
Dad.
year? No, it wasn't year
It
7.
was like year 6 maybe.
Might have been year 6.
Because I know who it is.
And
And they ended up leaving the school.
You're welcome.
Damn, Dad.
But I remember doing it. I remember going there and going, which is the kid that was giving you a hard time all this time? And you pointed to him. And I remember he kept looking over at me, and I would not.
It's a girl.
But I remember I refused to break eye contact with him, and he kept kind of leaning forward and trying to hide behind another kid. That he leaned back, and I was
Oh,
like,
no, that's
but I'm not saying fathers need to do that, but I'm saying I guarantee you every father wants to do that.
Oh, yeah.
But we do that because you hate hearing it. So when you hear your child goes through something, there's this instinct that kicks in that, right, there's a problem, we need to fix it. So do you think then when we're hearing you, when we're asking you, going back to the question, when we're hearing you, what's up, what's wrong, are you afraid that we're going to go and do something? Not so much physical, but is it because you just would rather have the conversation with a mate? Because if you do tell your dad, he's going to go out there and give you the wrong answer, or the answer you don't want to hear, or go and act on, or is it just purely because mateships? Because I understand the whole mateship thing. I get it. I talk to mates.
Well, I feel like with my whole school situation, I didn't really want to tell you and mum, because the only thing you could do was tell the school, and that does not go well, because then kids are like, oh, he's such a snitch, let's target this kid even more, I won't do nothing. So in those situations, I did choose to tell my mates first, and the reason is because they're in the school, they can actually do something besides tell the teachers, they can do something to the student. Like, for example, this is going to sound bad, but last year this kid was giving me a hard time. And at this point, I never really told you and mum about the hard times I get from people at school. I told my mate, and then I was like sick the next week. And turns out he sucker punched the kid right in the face, like just full right hook to the face. And he ended up getting suspended for, I think it was like 2 or 3 days, because he just walked up and right hooked him. I was like, wow.
I feel like sometimes we don't tell you stuff because realistically, and it's going to sound bad, but sometimes there's nothing really you can do. And the only thing that we would get out of telling you is something that isn't necessary, if that makes, like, backing
That
off
makes perfect sense.
backing off what Samuel was saying. Like, if he were to tell you something that happened, the only thing you could do is something that would make the situation worse. And you might not know it. You might just think, no, this is going to help. But I feel like that's one of the main reasons kids don't tell their parents something is because they're scared that it's just going to make the situation worse. And there's nothing really that you can do. You can always comfort and be like, hey, mate, it's all right. Like, this happened. I know it sucks. Like, there's always that comfort side of it. But even sometimes men don't want that comfort. Sometimes they just want to be left alone, think about it, absorb it, and then later go and tell you, hey, this happened. Like, for example, Samuel's telling you now. And it's all good now.
Oh yeah.
So
It's not, because I'm going to go find that kid and I'm going to suck a punch.
no, you should have kept it a secret. No, but you know what I mean? Like, there's, some things are just better dealt with mates rather than parents. And I think that also intertwines with that independence as well. Wanting to sort it out on your own, wanting to figure it out on your own rather than running to your mum or dad. If that makes sense, yeah.
It does, I get it. When I was growing up, I always had a good relationship with my dad. My dad's a good guy. My dad lacked one thing, and my dad lacked, what it was affection. My dad wasn't affectionate at all. No hugs, no kisses, no love you, nothing like that. Just the type of guy he was. Take it down to personality, take it down to his upbringing. It's just who he was. Do you see a role in affection that fathers need to play with their kids? Because I've on purpose always been affectionate with you guys. Even now, as older you are, you get a hug, you get a kiss, you just do. Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? Do you think there's a role for affection, or?
I think it's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
But my example probably isn't good.
Yeah, same with mine.
Wait, where's this going?
I just got it.
There's just some parts that's just going past the limit sometimes.
No, I'm not talking about that.
You just get a little too close to my lips, Dad.
No, I'm talking about the kids that
By accident.
if they don't get affection from their dad, they end up craving it.
That's a good point that you brought up, because I think when you look at society is so rampant at the moment with throwing around terms like, oh, that's gay, that's homo, that kind of stuff. It's just everywhere. And it gets thrown around way more than what it should, right? Do you think that plays a role then in society now teaching men that even when it comes down to their own kids, to not be affectionate? Because I've never cared about it. I don't give a rip. I don't care about, I'm not going to say I don't care about what you guys think, but I don't care what society thinks in wanting to tell me that I can't hug or kiss you. But I think a lot of men battle on what is too much affection or what's too little, and so they don't know. And so they're happy to participate in what's put out there and not be the one that's proactive. Whereas with you guys, I've got no problem with me walking up to you and me reaching out for the hug and then me reaching in for the kiss kind of thing. So do you think is it important? Do you think it's lacking in society? Do you think there needs to be more of it?
It's a hard one because we grew up with it.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's gonna be a lot harder for a dad to incorporate this affection with a 15-year-old or a 16 or 17, however old. I think it's gonna be a lot harder trying to incorporate this more. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to incorporate a hug or a, I love you, mate, like, proud of you, or even just like a kiss on the cheek before bed. Whatever it is, I think it's going to be still a lot harder to incorporate that later in life, because we grew up with it. We basically went through our entire life, like a hug before bed, love you, night, that kind of stuff. We grew up with that. So I think it's a very different story when it comes to incorporating it later. It's going to be a lot harder, but I think it's still possible. But also, the generation that we grew up in, where we did, like, say goodnight, hug, like, affection, we grew up where it wasn't seen as what it is today. So again, that makes it harder, I guess, because we didn't even have to rethink that. We didn't even have to think that way when we were kids. But now we have to. Like, kids of these days have to, like what you said, see it like that, which it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be looked at like that, which is sad, but it's the truth. That's how it's seen these days. And it's kind of like, well, that's just stupid. Like, I love my son. I want to give him a hug. Like, that's not what you're making it out to be. So I don't know. We grew up with it, so I think incorporating it early helps with incorporating affection. But I definitely think it's necessary.
I can't speak on behalf of all men in regards to what they want to do, but I can pretty much guarantee that vast majority, deep down, every man wants that affection with their kids. But I can guarantee the percentage of what really carried out is extremely low. But I think deep down, every man wants to. How, if it's that important, because I think what you said, Samuel, I think that's 100% true. When you see, whether it be a boy or a girl, but when you're a child growing up that lacks affection, you seek affection, because deep down we're all wanting that kind of connection with somebody. We crave it. So when it lacks, so do you then think it plays a role into why society is the way it is when it comes down to that style of, it's so out there that, they use the saying sex sells. In other words, when you can incorporate some kind of sexual thing, it sells because it's interesting. It creates a curiosity, it's all that kind of stuff. Because in our minds, we're all thinking that kind of way in our heads. But do you think then you see younger men or younger girls, do you see them, they react more in regards to they're searching for more if it's lacking at home?
Yes.
Yeah.
I hear it all the time. I hear it all the time with guys lacking that at home. So if you're a male, if you're a father at home and you're not affectionate with your kid, and what you said, Caleb, it's going to be tough now, like to introduce, let's just say your kid's 15, you've never hugged him or kissed him. How would a father go about incorporating it? Because I can guarantee a lot of men listening now probably don't do it, but deep down they want to do it. How would they start?
I think starting small with like, I love you, because I know lots of fathers wouldn't say that to their sons. But then like with you, before you go to bed, you'll come into my room, you'll be like, yeah, I'm going to bed, and I'll stand up, I'll give you a hug, you're like, night man, love you, I'll love you too. So if you slowly start incorporating the verbal, then you can slowly incorporate like a hug and
The physical.
Yeah, the physical. So I reckon starting small was just by saying I love you. Because
Well-
even just that one sentence is so powerful to a teenager from his dad.
Even something subtle like, come give me a hug, mate. Like, just like, oh, before you go, mate, give us a hug. Just like, it's not really weird, because it's not a weird thing. It might be if your household isn't used to that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's not a weird thing. And I mean, I can't really speak on all teenagers like my age or anything, but most of the time they're not gonna rethink it. I think it's okay, yeah. Sure, and it might be like awkward at the start, but once you...
So a teenager wouldn't be thinking, oh my God, why is my dad doing this now?
Oh, I think there's always
feel
going to be
like-
that
yeah.
thought going through their head, but I don't think they're going to...
Not hug you.
I don't think that, unless they're like a really rude person, I don't think they're going to be like, no, that's weird. Unless they're kind of like up themselves or whatever. I don't see why someone would really need to say no to that. But I mean, I could be wrong. Like, everyone thinks differently, and people will react differently to different situations. Like, I mean, I've grown up with it, so I react differently. It's like a nightly routine before I go to bed. I say goodnight, hug you, love you. But yeah, I don't know. It's unique to everyone's household, I guess. Finding what works for you.
Yeah. Is there a conversation that we haven't had that you think we need to have or should have? I'm talking in respect of father and son. You look at general fathers and sons. Is there a conversation that fathers don't have with their kids, but you go, I think deep down fathers need to have this conversation?
I have thought of one, but I don't know if I should say. Like, I'm pretty sure you can kind of get what I'm getting at here.
Like pornography.
Yeah, because like we we had the convo like years ago about it, but I feel like there'd be definitely some fathers out there that haven't had that conversation with their kid, especially nowadays. Teenagers would definitely be struggling with that for sure. And just like a small conversation to be like, hey man, can we talk about this for a sec? Like that could really open a kid's mind and be like, holy crap, what am I doing? So
Is there a certain way a father should do that to his kids?
I don't really know, to be honest. 'Cause it's such a uncomfortable conversation to have.
I think parents shouldn't go looking for it.
Yeah.
I don't think parents
Go
should go
looking for
about
what do you mean?
looking through kids' history
Phones
or
and stuff.
phones and stuff like that, because that's where trust gets destroyed. That you need to, I think this is something that comes out of a conversation with your kid. And you, even if you find out like, oh crap, my son or my daughter's watching this, but I can't bring it up with them because like I think it's something that parents need to have this conversation with their kids, like what it is, the dangers of it, like all of that stuff, so that the message gets across. But I think the kid needs to actually bring it up, and that's where they kind of need to take a step of faith, I guess, and actually bring it up. But I think it's very risky to go looking for it, find it, and then bring it up, because then that way the kid's head isn't going to be in the space of, you're right, I should stop. It's going to be, why were you looking through my stuff? Like, why would you do that? Like, don't you trust me? Like that kind of stuff. Yeah, but it's...
So you're saying you should wait for the kid to bring it up. You don't think a parent should address it?
I think a parent should address it, but not directly as in, I know you have been. I think it should be in a way of, look, mate, I don't know if you are. I don't know anything, but you're at the age where blah, 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 and I think you need to know that, blah, 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 blah. And I think that's where you bring it up. I don't think you address it like, I know that you do, because I think that's where the trust gets a bit fiddled with.
If you bring it up as like a coming of age type talk, or even like, yo, they've probably been bringing this type of stuff out at school. Do you mind if we have a further conversation into it? Because I'd like to talk to you about a few things with it. I don't know. There's definitely ways a parent can bring it up, but I agree with Caleb, going through their phone and finding out and being like, yo, I know you're looking at this. We need to talk. The kid's going to have a million thoughts going through his head, being like, oh, crap, they know this is not how I want them to figure it out. I can't believe they went through my phone. Can't believe they didn't trust me. Can't believe they went behind my back. But then if you go about it a different way where you're like, yo, I don't know if you are, I don't know if you're not, but I think we need to talk about it because you're starting to hit a certain age now where you're curious, then I think you can go about that conversation very easily. But I definitely don't think a lot of fathers do that because it's a very uncomfortable conversation to have.
Do you think the sex talk and the pornography talk are two different talks?
Yes.
Yeah. I think they can be intertwined though. I wouldn't be surprised if both topics were brought up in the same conversation. Like it will definitely happen. Like, I think the way that I don't remember how I found out about it. I think someone was watching it at school and I was just like, what the hell? But
yeah,
the way we brought it up to you, I think it was something along the lines of like, hey dad, I saw this today. What the heck is this? I think they both intertwined. Because I think when I found out, I didn't even know what sex was. And I didn't know what porn was. So in that situation, you had to talk about both. This is what sex is, blah, 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 blah. And this is what this is. And this isn't good.
But I feel like that, I agree with what you're saying, but I also think that there's a lot of circumstances where they don't intertwine in the same conversation. Because I remember some kid brought it up when I was in like the 4th grade, and that's when you gave me the sex talk, but we never went into pornography because I didn't know what pornography was. And at that age, I was 10 or 9, and I was still at that age where if you tell me not to do something, I'm going to go do it because I'm interested. So I think depending on the age and maturity depends if those talks intertwine. Because if you then told me about it at that age, talking about the sex talk and then bringing up pornography, I would have been like, well, now I'm interested because I've just figured out this new thing. If pornography is what it intertwines, then I'm going to go looking for it. So I think it's definitely an age maturity thing. I don't think they should intertwine.
But I don't think a parent should bring it up unless it needs to be addressed.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't just bring up the porn talk because of age. I think.
So how do we know then?
Actually, I do think you need to bring it up because of age.
Yeah.
Because that's why you brought up for us. We hit a certain age where other kids are starting to figure it out. So it's either we learn it from other kids, which means we're not going to have a full understanding, or you tell us about it. So hitting a certain age, other kids are going to learn those things. I reckon, bringing it up, being like, "Yo, you're coming to this age. Can we talk about this?" I think that's what the parents do need to do. They'd be like, "Yo, you're turning 14 now. Some kids are going to be bringing up some stuff that you're not going to know. Let's have a talk."
But I truly think that there's nothing but good things to come out of putting as many restrictions in place in terms of technology. I don't think there's anything but good things to come out of putting restrictions on phones, blocking that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing but good things. Like if someone is like that desperate to go looking for it and they can't, that's nothing but good, because it's not good. It's just, I think that's something parents got to stand by and not change no matter what. Like the whole age restrictions on like search engines and stuff like that, I think is definitely necessary. Because like, why would a kid question it then? Like if they find a restriction on their search engine and go, "Oh, Dad, why can't I look up on my Google?" It's like, "Oh, well, it's to block out any mature audience type content, and you're not 18 years old, so that's why." What can they do then? Why would they want to? What do they have to question after that? Like, because the only excuse after that is to like go looking for stuff. So I think it's 100% necessary to put those restrictions in place.
Is there a part of getting older that you guys aren't looking forward to? Or seems hard, or...
I had a joke, but I'm not going to say it.
Having that conversation with my kids.
Yeah.
You're not looking forward to having this
No
conversation
way.
with your
Oh,
kids?
no.
Absolutely
it's
not.
I remember when
Because
I got the
it's-
convo, I cried,
Because
bro.
it's so dangerous and it's scary and it sparks curiosity.
Yeah, exactly.
The last thing I want is for me to bring up a conversation about pornography and my kid go looking for it because of that conversation. It's the last thing I want. If that happens, I would never want to bring it up. So that's why I'm worried. I think that's definitely one of the biggest things. I mean, sex talk, not as much. That's a necessary talk, and I think that'll come out, and I don't think I'm going to be too scared about that or worried. But talking about pornography is going to very much worry me, because I'm basically telling my kid what it is, what they're going to be looking at, and if that sparks curiosity in their mind, I'm going to be bloody worried, because now they're going to go looking for it. Because I've told them, okay, this is what it is. Yeah, it's bad, but you never know what they're thinking. So that's definitely one of the conversations I'm worried about or scared to have.
What about things like financial situations and wars and...
The whole financial stuff is what scaring me about growing up, because I know that houses are getting more expensive, food's getting more expensive, like the inflation's going up, the world's not getting less populated. It's always going to keep going up with the number of people. So there's going to be so many more things that are going to be a lot harder to buy than they were at your age. I mean, you and Mum were able to get a house at like what age? Like 20-something, early 20?
21, I think. 21.
21. Yeah, well, Chelsea's 21 now, and I don't think she's close to being able to buy a house soon. I mean, stuff's so expensive now. I mean, our house in Penrith was what, like, not even $1 million house. But then there's houses that was a lot smaller than the one that we had in New South Wales that are so much more expensive. So it's just, I don't know. It's definitely scary thinking about money and inflation. Because it's like, how am I going to move out? How am I going to start my own life?
It's also thinking, how can I help provide for my kid? Because we know, you know the situation, and we know the situation. So it's kind of putting myself in the mindset of, okay, it is, I mean, it's not impossible, but it's close to impossible to be able to, from scratch, just get enough to have a house by 21. Like, that is super hard. So I guess through your mind as a parent goes like, okay, well, how can I help provide for my kid when this situation does come? Because you want to be able to help them out. Like, it's not like you're just going to leave them to fend for themselves and not in some way give them the knowledge of how to properly get a house and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's finance is a big one, especially for men. I mean, we are traditionally the providers. I think the
One of
way
the Ps.
society. What's that?
One of the P's.
One of the P's. And it's true though, because traditionally we are, and I think society now, because things are so expensive, that it puts that pressure on both the father and the mother, which in turn I believe, puts more pressure on the father, because there can come a sense of failure that if you're not the one providing, that can play with your mind as a man, I think.
Absolutely. Like, especially for my age right now, thinking of the position I want to be in and how to achieve it, it's hard. And it might not be something that I want to do. Like you always tell me, like, hey mate, I would recommend to you get into a trade because there's money in it. There's always need for it. You can work on your own home, whatever trade you're doing. But in situations like for myself, a lot of people don't want to get into a trade. Like, that's not what they want to do. A lot of people want that freedom of actually pursuing what they want to pursue in life and having that. Because, like, for me, I don't personally want to live a life where I'm working as a sparky or a plumber or anything like that, because that's not me. That's not who I am. But if I get to the point where I have to do that, yes, I would have a home. Yes, I'll have a family and be, like, potentially financially secure. But I feel like I would have missed out on an opportunity to actually do what I'm passionate about. But again, that can always happen later down the track too. So I don't know. I'm still learning about it.
Do you think the pressures, and you can use me as an example, I guess, but do you think the pressures are there from fathers to their kids when it comes to, like, for your example, you're 19 years old, so you're stepping into that time of getting a job and things like that. And I have given you the advice of this is what I think you should do. But more so, I'd love to see you do what you want to do. That's more important to me, because I want you to be doing and fulfilling what it is that you want to do. But do you think there's too much pressure? I know we mentioned this at the start, but do you think the pressures are there too much for younger people to perform a certain way? Because looking at me, I still have the same fears that you guys mentioned. Like, when you look ahead and you see the way the financial situation is around the world, there's still fears that we get as 45-year-old men. Because I still have 20-something years left of work in me that I've got to still last and maintain a certain lifestyle that provides and does things. So they're fears that I carry as well. So do you think, even though they are genuine fears that we have, they're also fears that you have? Do you think that's a pressure that we've put on you too much? Or do you think we should back away from it?
I definitely think the conversation needs to be had about, like, how serious it is to be financially stable and to be able to provide. I think that definitely needs to be brought up. Like, hey, here's the situation. This is the reality of it. If you want to get a home, you got to be earning this much. You got to be, this is what's required. But the pressure of it, like, are you asking personally or just in general?
I'm asking both ways, I guess, for you as in person, but also kids your age.
Well, I don't feel pressured, but my eyes have definitely been open because of conversations you've had with me. And I know the severity of, like it like getting a house, it's hard. So especially like these days, and it's only going to get worse, I think. So, well, can you say the question again?
Just about the pressure, like, do you think, because we being, my age, like 45, I know the pressures you're going to be up against financially. Hence why the advice that comes from me to you is that way inclined, because I know it, I see it. Do I see it getting worse? Yeah, I do. And so I want to give you guys the best advice. But do you think that pressure is too much to handle? Do you think fathers should step back and be like, no, we trust you, you're going to make the right decisions? Or do you think we should be poking and prodding that a bit more to go, no, you need to be more diligent, more...
I think in the early stages of someone graduating and going into the world, I think same as the hot pan. I think you, to some extent, still tell them. Actually, no, it's different to the hot pan because I still think you tell them what's coming up instead of warning them, hey, that pan's hot, don't touch it. Oh no, sorry, no, I'm totally wrong. Still tell them the pan's hot, but they're still going to go and figure it out for themselves. So I still think, yes, tell them, hey, this is what's required, this is what's coming up, you're going to have this much money, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, once a kid's left school and they've started to do full-time work, they're going to get a bit of money in their pocket and they're going to get excited. I mean, pretty much everyone does, unless they're very smart and like financially smart. They're going to have that excitement of, wow, I've got a couple $1,000s in my pocket now. What can I do with this? And I think it comes back to like, they'll get that moment where they go, holy crap, I am not ready for this. And they'll come back.
I disagree.
What was that?
Well, you said that. Oops, sorry. You said that you reckon you need to tell them, not pressure them after they've graduated. I do agree with that part, but I feel like that's too late to tell them.
Oh, I definitely think tell them earlier.
Yeah, because
Like before graduation.
Yeah, because I remember when I was in like grade 5, maybe grade 6, Dad used to drive me to these little rental houses you've brought and used to teach me about equity and money and all these different things just because I was interested in what you were doing. And I just had that like interest for money because you expressed your interest of money towards me. So I feel like slowly incorporating that over time throughout my like 12 to the age I am now, the more interested I've gotten in money and the more I'm like, I want to start making as much money now. So then when I do graduate from school, I mean, I'm not graduating from school, I'm out of school now. But when I do hit 19, 18, I don't go, oh, sweet, I got money, I'm going to go out and have fun with my friends and spend it all. And then when I hit 21, go, crap, I only have a couple $100. I need to screw my head on and start locking in. But I already have that mindset now where I'm like, I need to screw my head on and figure out how to make money now so I don't have that problem later. So I feel like that needs to come earlier so then kids don't make the stupid, like, touching the pan situation later in life.
But people still will.
People still will.
And I was talking from the perspective of if they still do. So, but yeah, I agree with you.
I reckon slowly, like, bring it in. Then through the teen years, slowly, like you said about pressuring before. I don't think pressure is the right word because pressuring is like, you have to do this, you have to do that. I think you need to intrigue them more throughout their early years, intrigue them more. Then when they get older, like around my age, start adding little bits of pressure then because that age is when they can start working. They're thinking about money, future, or at least that's what I am at the moment. I know other kids my age that are thinking, I need to start thinking about how I need to make money. So I don't think the word pressure is right. I think it's you need to intrigue your kids, and I reckon you need to do that from like 12.
That's interesting.
Showing the freedom and benefits of having money too. Like instead of trying to make ends meet for the rest of your life, show what being financially smart can get you. Yeah, I did work for 20 years really hard, but now I can go on a holiday to America for Christmas with my family. This is what you can get. Showing them the outcome of what can come of being financially smart instead of you know.
So do you think kids your age, teenagers, would respond well then if parents did put that bit more pressure on it?
I think
Yeah.
kids my age would. I don't know about your age because I know when they leave school, they don't want to be like instantly pressured into adult things. It's like, I just left school. Can you let me live like a little bit? But I think my age, it's good for parents to add that little bit of pressure because then when they hit his age, they have that mindset already. Not saying that you don't, I mean like other people your age.
I actually disagree with that. I think you still need to bring it back and a bit more serious once graduation hits, because that's when it is more serious.
It is a very interesting topic, isn't it?
No, because this is a challenge that us fathers, we face this because we don't want to be putting that much pressure on it, but we do see the future. No, okay, no, we don't see the future, but we can sense what's coming. We see it and go, okay, it's going to get tough. So generally we're going, I think the general consensus is it's going to get tough. So we want to see you guys succeed. We want to see you have the freedom and the because money's a great thing. It's a tool, and it can be used for great things. If money is used wisely, it can be used to do amazing things. It gives you freedom of choice. It opens up so many more opportunities. So we want to pressure you in because we want to see you succeed in it, so that the freedoms that do come with it, money comes with challenges, there's no doubt about it, but there's also a lot of freedoms with it. So we want you to have the freedoms that come with it, which is why in turn we put the pressures on.
Well, Zach, what do you think when Dad says about this like money thing? Do you think it should be brought up to people your age?
I do think so, yeah, because it already is getting brought up at this age right now in like schools, because like everyone's like talking about jobs right now and like startup jobs and like how much money they make and like what they're buying, and I think it does help a lot for them to like think about money this age, because then it like improves them to like do it more in the future and like encourages them to do it more.
Yeah, because your age group is starting to get jobs now. Because you're like, what,
Yeah.
15? Yeah, so it's like the ripe age of starting to work and starting to get that bit more money in your pocket rather than just like a weekly allowance. So yeah, I think it would be a good age. Once they get their first job, I think that's when you should bring up that conversation. Or even when, if there is a weekly allowance or getting a bit of pocket money for doing chores and stuff, I still think you explain the importance of, okay, well, saving this money, you could spend it and get a couple bags of lollies right now, or you could save it and get that Xbox you really wanted. You know what I mean? Teaching them the value of it.
Absolutely, 100%. Hence, and that's why we do. This is why we try to bring the value into it.
I think it just needs to be a bit more of a different conversation throughout the different stages of life, like pocket money. Hey, teach them about saving, and then, oh, you get your first job. Okay, you're getting a bunch more money now. Savings are becoming more important, like for your first car when you're 17. And then even after when graduation, okay, now you're looking for a house. It just gets that little bit more each time, but that conversation needs to expand that bit more each time. I think it just goes with the stages of life.
It's interesting when you think about it, because from a father's perspective, we by far just want the best, raising our kids. And I think sometimes we can overdo it, overstep it, and even overthink it. I think we can take things too far. But I think overall, there needs to be a time where we step back and go, I'm backing the way that I've parented you, and I'm backing the decisions I've made in how I've raised you, that I'm going to step back and just let you now, to a degree, go for it. And I think that comes down to you as a man stepping back and looking at yourself, which I guess in turn would be hard for fathers that don't see a lot of their kids, because they're not backing their parenting style. They're backing the absence of their parenting style to sit back and watch. And maybe that's why a lot of fathers live in so much regret, because they wish they had the involvement growing up, but then two, they're watching their kids make decisions as they've gotten older, and those decisions have come from experiences that their kids have had whilst their father hasn't been present, which must be a tough thing for a father to take, I reckon.
Yeah.
Well, I think we wrap it up there, lads.
Sounds good.
That was good.
I really, really appreciate you boys jumping on with us. Truly, that was, yeah, thank you.
That was good.
And it makes me just, look, I know every father is proud of their kids, but it just makes me super proud that you guys can sit here on this stage and on this platform next to me and be who you are. I can be proud of you, but I think the men that will watch and listen to this will also be proud of the young men that you guys have grown up to be. So thank you, truly. Thanks for being part of it.
Thanks, man.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining us here at the Men's Collective podcast. We are the Average Joes. Thanks for being a part of this podcast. We also want to thank our sponsors that are a part of supporting us financially, which has made a massive, huge effort to who we are in getting our message out there. Guys, like we say every week, more importantly, get along to your local Average Joe's group this weekend. Hit up the website, hit up our social media, see where all our events are, our times and places. Be a part of it. More importantly, get to your Average Joe's. So guys, thank you once again, and we will see you next week here at Average Joe's.